everyone. Have a seat if you're not already seated, or stand. No problem. I'm going to sit today, actually. I'm sitting. But with me is our colleague, Josh Cloutier. Thanks for joining me today, Josh.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Craig.
Absolutely. Josh is walking proof that Cloutiers can have amazing hair. Yep.
The lucky ones.
Yeah, I guess so. Keep it going, man. I know your Uncle Chris also had great hair at one point, so I hope that your fate, well, isn't the same as his too quickly.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. Very good. So, hey, everyone, please, as you come in, go ahead, find the chat button. We have enabled chat for everyone. Say hello. Ask questions there. We have some great questions that we have already fielded from the registration form. This webinar, we're going to be going into very quickly. We do have our typical polling questions that we like to ask our audience, but then we're going to move into the questions that you asked for us. And I think that's going to guide the best results. I love getting questions, and I thank you all for priming us with some really, really good ones. I've got some great questions on there. I think everyone will benefit from. Now, before we jump in, I do want to say, hey, Josh has joined our team. Some of you have had the privilege of working with Josh. Josh, you also have had the privilege of going down to Golden Rule Auto Care many times, correct?
Oh yeah, I had an old BMW to say the least, and spent many hours at the shop. So there's a bunch of guitars in there as well. So we take them off the wall, practice a little guitar while we're there. Johnny and Graham are the best.
That is awesome. One of the things I love is the Golden Rule culture and the Cloutier culture that goes right along with it. Musician as well. I think that's great. I'm really happy to have you as part of the team. And I always like to make a link to this too. The DVI, I always like to think of as a sweet guitar. I have the hair, but I'm not a musician. And I once had a pastor who gave a sermon, really good sermon, where he described a person who had this classic guitar on the wall, and it sat on the wall, and it's this beautiful instrument that Josh and his Uncle Chris would definitely recognize as an amazing piece. But the guy who had it on the wall never played it. And he had a friend come over to the house, and that friend, he saw that guitar and said, "Oh, that's amazing. Can we take it down and play it?" And the man takes it down, and he just starts shredding, and it's making music of wonderful proportions. One man had the guitar. The other man had the guitar. And this, my friends, is you have a DVI. Some of you have a DVI. And process is what makes the difference, as well as a wonderful provider like Autoflow. So let's dive in. Let's look at some of the fun here and make sure that you can be the one that really has Autoflow at its full leverage. Beginning with poll questions.
Yep. So our first poll question here, Craig, we asked, does your team perform courtesy inspections? And it looks like the overwhelming majority was yes here with the 95.8% and a no with 4.2%.
Yeah, super close, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some of you know I've railed on this topic a little bit. I always push for like paid inspections, and I still believe strongly in paid inspections. I have nothing against courtesy inspections and find them extraordinarily valuable. And I know this from firsthand experience working with so many of you who have very successful courtesy inspection processes. I like to see what the temperature is out there, and it's not surprising. Just a little sliver of you that don't do the courtesy inspections. There are strategies with it. I would love to go into in more detail. Some of you have heard this before, but let's keep going. The cool thing here, and I think Josh, you'll agree with this too, knowing that a lot of our clients are doing courtesy level inspections, one of the things that our team really tries our best to do is support a very efficient process.
Of course.
Yeah. Keeping it efficient for the technician matters, and a good presentation for the client. Next question.
So our next poll result here, we asked, how many images do you ask your team to take in a DVI? And it looks like we have some scattered answers here. We have as many as 50 and as low as 10 and 2, but our majority is going to be between 10 and 15 here.
Yeah, answers were all over the place. I had to do that in the poll question too. As like, I know that they aren't going to all neatly fit into these nice little categories of things because it's too broad. And it was just interesting to see the sheer variety of requirements. And some of you even saying, There are no requirements, as many as possible, all that sort of thing. But there was a clear consensus that around that 10 to 15 mark was definitely the most popular, considering a lot of you are doing the courtesy inspections too. Pretty healthy range, I think. Next up.
So our next poll question here that we asked, how long do you expect your team to take performing a DVI? So the times include up to 1 hour, as low as 10 to 15 minutes. Our target here was 15 minutes max.
Yeah. Yeah, the target time, I felt like most of you were hitting that 15-minute range. Pretty good. I've always tried to say 7 to 12 minutes is the ideal range for a courtesy inspection. That's just in my mind from personal experience of very, very targeted courtesy inspections. But I've seen the length of courtesy inspections grow, image counts grow as well. And as people continue to refine processes, that 15-minute mark seems really pretty common. A lot of you are in that 30 to 45-minute range, not always by choice. So let's be clear on that. So those are the questions that we asked you, and thank you for giving us the insights. This actually does help us and our team so that we can continue to support a really healthy process here. Let's move in to the questions that you asked us.
So question number one here we have from Rui. Could you share a process you think I may be ignoring that you know I should not be?
I love it. Rui, thanks for this question too. This is a great primer. There is only one area that I can imagine excellent process aficionados like Rui and perhaps not embracing yet. This is a tough one for me because I cover a lot of processes in these webinars, and I had to think of one that's very nuanced. There is a new one, brand new because of a new feature, so that no one's going to leverage. We're going to cover that. But one of my favorite is how we manage the yes/no toggles inside of the DVI. And this is an area I still see most users struggle to add into their process. And it is something that we want to solve with AI as we move forward, but that's down the road. And right now, I'm a big fan of human activity. Using these filters inside of the DVI, you see this on my screen. I'm a service advisor. I have my service advisor hat on, and I've received a great inspection from my technician. The process that I really want to see is service advisors marking the approvals here inside of the DVI. Now, I think that in Rui's case, this is something already encouraged. Excellent, I know, for interval-based follow-ups and maintaining regular contact with clients. But there's a second layer for this. If you fail to do this inside of the DVI, and many people are unaware of this, you can do it in your quality control form. Here's how. So when a QC is performed for a vehicle, you'll open it up, you'll perform the quality control per usual. And once you submit the report, I have requirements here. Oh, by the way, you can add requirements now to your quality control form. When you hit submit, what you see on my screen is anything that's on the DVI that hadn't been marked as addressed. And so you get chance number 2 in the quality control process. It is the quality control process that can support this part of the DVI. QCs are certainly something I want to see more shops do. I track the activity of DVIs and QCs. QCs are way lower in their usage compared to digital inspection forms. So do yourself a courtesy inspection at the end of the visit to make sure it's in a deliverable state for your client, and use this here. This will change the DVI when you monitor this. So if I'm an advisor, you know, we always recommend a dual screen setup. I'm looking at my repair order or my invoice on the other screen, and I'm going to do my final audits here so that when I post this order, it doesn't need auditing in the future in the rainy day folder. We talk a lot about rainy day folder and other follow-ups, but that's a great spot for it. And just so you know, administrators, QC setup is where you can turn that feature on. So quality control setup, you can turn it on for some sheets and on for other ones, off for other ones. But the item that you'd be choosing is show DVI items. Toggle that on. Now, don't get in the habit of yes. You'll want to audit it against your invoice, but it's going to make sure you have good data going to your clients. Three screens now, Larry. I love you, man. That's great. I went three screens too. I don't know if that helps me. I just have to nuke some windows periodically through my day at this point. But yeah, three screens is pro level for sure. Now, oh, one thing I should add on this too, when it comes to the yes, no toggles, there's another setting, and Rui's question, this bears some follow-up here. In DVI setup, that's the top level main toggle settings in Autoflows. It's an administrator screen here. You're going to want to use the show approved or unapproved items. Make sure that's toggled on so your clients will see that it was either addressed or not addressed in their DVI. Because remember, DVIs get viewed by clients, but then repairs happen. And so when's the DVI out of date? Really, the moment technicians start turning the wrench on the vehicle, isn't it? And so you want to have that addressed label on those items that were authorized during that visit so that they don't think that their car's in permanent broken state when they look at their DVI later on. I find that very useful. You can show the customers. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's specifically this one. Show customer items as addressed right here. That's the one that you're definitely going to want. Perfect. So let's go on to the next question. I hope that was helpful, Rui.
So question 2, Craig, we had from Darren. How can I get more customers to actually click the link in the text to view their DVI? He's asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Darren, you're a good friend, and that's a good question. This is my favorite topic. When I'm working with new shops, this is a big deal. Getting clients to open up the link. Some of you have seen our sales studies, but we study this at length. I could pull open slides to show you the impact that a viewed inspection has on sales versus a non-viewed inspection, a ticket that didn't get a viewed inspection. The workflow is the key to this question. So the question very specifically, getting customers to actually click the link. They need to know first and foremost that it's coming. I remember working with Darren at one point, so maybe his friend, we should work with them too. His team had the same issue. And it's just expectation setting. If the client doesn't know they're going to be receiving the DVI, there's a good likelihood that it hasn't been the expectation wasn't set. We want to use the check-in message a variety of ways too, but this is also going to be the first text that they receive. And I remember working with Darren years ago, and the thing that we discovered is that he had a silent, all of his statuses were silent. And the first text that they were sending people is the DVI with the link to click on. Josh, if you had an unfamiliar phone number texting you and it had a link to click, are you going to click it?
Probably not.
Yeah, it seems sketch, right? Even though it might be identified as the shop and the shop phone number is right there, this is a very common behavior. People will see a random number, there's a link to click on, they don't even read it to see the identifier. You must identify yourself and your shop before you send that text with a link in it. I don't care what that link is, a DVI or anything, even getting the review request. I think that's a really helpful thing. Yeah, and prep them at the counter, drop off. Yes, I love this column. Let them know we will send you a detailed inspection report. Once you get the report, look it over and then give us a call. Beautiful, sir. That is exactly it. And that simple language is really, really good. One other thing to that question I would add is that, yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you've set why you do DVIs. If they understand why you're doing DVIs and believe in that, they're going to want to open it up. The last thing I'll say to this is when you do start the sales call, if they haven't opened it, invite them to open it. The simple question of, hey, I'd love for you to open that DVI up. There's a couple of things I want to draw attention to. Most people will open it for you, and you can even resend it. Beautiful. And Mary says, we don't wait for the customers to call. We call them within a few minutes. Otherwise, they start looking for parts on the internet. Yeah. Welcome to 2024. Absolutely. Yeah. And I do demonstrate when I do this, folks, I often don't wait for calls either. When I use my requires approval status, you're going to see that I use a timer on this, and this supports a DVI process. So Mary, you're spot on. I love this. I will build in this downtick timer here. And you can put 5 minutes, I think is the lowest toggle option. It might be others. Let's look. But this is going to get down to 0. And I know if it's 0, I'm calling them. I use the workflow to help me stay on point with that exact thing. Now, most calls happen within 1 to 2 minutes of that text going out. And for those of you who haven't seen how to manage those timers, that's in workflow setup. I know we're talking DVI today, but the workflow is a key supporter of the DVI, and the people who are using the workflow in conjunction with it see better results. You will go to the requires approval status. You will turn it to a down tick timer, and you can pick the default time. I would actually keep it 5 minutes. And that is that. That'll save and we're good to go. And you get to control when it's orange and when it's red. So if you do want to start orange at 5 minutes instead and not have it turn red until 0, that's also a great option for you. Beautiful. All right, let's go to the next question.
So question 3 we have from Harrison here. Do you have any tips for techs to increase their speed in performing DVIs, particularly for techs with basic English?
This is a good one. And so basic English, I see people on the West Coast, some of their technicians speak Chinese. I see French speaking Canadians. We have Spanish, obviously all throughout the country as a common second language. And this is something that I would love to support better in Autoflow than we currently do. It is on the radar for us to get better at this. So Brandon Cruchet, our fellow trainer on our team, Josh, I was chatting with Brandon a little bit ago on his strategy for this. And there really is a good case to be made for going into DVI sheet setup and actually building out an inspection form specifically for that language. It's not terribly difficult to go and use Google Translate, translate the names of your parts, create another sheet that uses this, have drop-down notes and recommendations in that language, specifically simple recommendations. It doesn't need to be as verbose as some of mine, but you can definitely build out those recommendations so it's point and click for those folks in their language. It might take a little bit of time to administrate, but it is going to save you a lot of time later on. And the translation ability up front at the counter in Google is so simple as well. There is another idea I had. I have not put this into practice, but with this question, I would suggest you use the global DVI items, have the English form mapped items to the Spanish, French, or Chinese form, whichever it is. That way, anything they mark on their one form will be on the other form as well. You'll have to translate their responses, but the line items are going to be very clear, and it'll share history across both of those sheets. So you actually could have some shared history between an English sheet and a Spanish sheet, no problem. And just because the Olympics are going right now, I'm also going to add the river in Paris is pronounced Seine. It is the Seine. It's not the Seine. It's not the Seine. It's Seine. French really get upset, I understand, when you pronounce things wrong. But if you want to have a good time, go watch French people pronouncing English wrong too. There's some great videos of that. Hopefully that's helpful.
So question 4 we have from Carmine here. What is the best way to engage a customer in a DVI?
Best way to engage a customer in a DVI. So let's take this one. I'm going to take this question, Josh, from a perspective of they've actually opened it and we're discussing things in the DVI. This is a really good question. In fact, I do some instruction on this. Don't go line by line with someone. But here's the thing: with the newest features in Autoflow, let me close that out. Go back into my DVI a second here. I will always encourage service advisors to have this screen open, not this screen, but this screen with the preview. If you haven't been using that preview button inside of Autoflow to see what the client sees, then you're going to be missing out on this and something else. In fact, I'm going to go full screen on it just for better viewing here, because you can also copy this link in this preview as well. I'm going to go put that in a fresh web tab. This again is going to be shop preview mode. It won't be counting as a view. I missed. Nope, I missed again. That's all right. I'm gonna do this. Here we go. Paste. Nope, it's the wrong URL. I think I'm having a hard time copy and paste. That's all right. Bear with me. Got it. First try. This is shop preview mode still. And we're going to go and look at a couple of different things that we can do in this. And we're going to talk about that video presentation as well. My favorite thing about this is very customizable, and we should probably talk microsite editing as well. But let's look at just the red items first. We've already studied this. We know customers go to this section like a fly to a light. This is able to be rearranged. Oh, I'm not in preview mode. I lied. Let me go back in here. I need preview mode. Is that not letting me click? There it is. Am I in preview mode now? I'll find out very quickly. It is not. Okay, so I'm going to do preview mode in the small screen because I can't get it to work in the other one right now. All right, what I wanted to show you is that you can click, drag, and drop these items and be able to show this in the order that you want to present things in the conversation. You're prioritizing the order of work in this screen. I would have killed to have this years ago because typically I would have to try to draw attention to things and have clients bouncing around through different spots of the DVI. With this, you can not only see what they see, but you can control the order that they see it in as an advisor. I wish you could do this cross category and colors. That's not really the point of that. But I will also say that the real strategy for engaging a client with an inspection form, especially if it's a courtesy inspection, is you must address their main concern first. And if your shop is not tagging items to the reason the vehicle's here, and that is done in the RVH, I've already done this. I'm just going to show you how it looks. You hit the pencil. You see the items I've tagged right here. It's the same thing here, filters. I could also actually, I have another item on this one I should be doing. Thought I had shocks and struts on this one. Let's go into our DVI. I had a video and suspension. I just called it suspension. Perfect. Non-descriptive part, but that's all right. If you can't find it, you type in suspension. I already did tag it. That's why I'm not finding it. Okay, I'm not blind. Suspension's tagged, sway bar's tagged. The suspension's more important. So here's where you can prioritize tagged items. And then when you have that, that's going to show up in that preview. It'll automatically, in my case, I have a setting and I'm going to show you this. It automatically pulled the customer to the main concern and expanded that section. This is a really great skill, feature, because now they're going to be confronted with this as the first thing they even view in the first place. Their main concern and the things specifically that addresses it are very clearly labeled. If you want your behavior to work that way, you need to go into the customer DVI setup. I know we've added 4 screens at this point for managing customer experiences and other things in the DVI. This one very specifically is for the client view. You can put your branding colors all throughout here, control a lot of mechanisms on placement. Even the new video presentation feature, we'll show you that here in a second. But that feature that I'm showing for that default section being the primary concerns is default and expanded. You can expand other items as well and not have it be the default. That's all up to you. I think that's very helpful to get engagement in some areas. Sometimes people are a little shy of clicking additional things. You can expand it all open for them. Let's see, Josh, am I forgetting anything? I am. This page, lots of stuff is customizable. Here are your primary concerns. If you have different language that your shop uses, you can support that language here as well. And that creates consistency from that first conversation all the way up through this presentation. There's no other platform out there that allows this level of customization inside of the DVI. I find this really, really helpful. Colors, anything on a paintbrush on here, you can click on. And if you're in a multi-shop operation, once you set it in one setting, push it to all your other locations. Very cool tool. Now let's go back into this and let's talk very briefly on that newest of features, the video presentation. It's confused a couple of you in terms of what is visible to the customer. And this dotted line, I want to be very clear, does not show up to the customer. So if you're trying to get better engagement inside of the DVI with videos, and videos are where people are consuming things, the way you'll manage this is you click on the video that you recorded and you can turn this on. This toggle here is what's going to determine if a customer sees this I call it a carousel, but I don't know that's the proper term for this video presentation module. They'll see it here, and you can have the videos play continuously in the order that you choose them to play in. This is really helpful because we know that people don't click on subsequent videos in many cases. We also know they're addicted to TikTok, Facebook Reels, Instagram, and every other social media thing out there. And we have this feature now that doesn't use that that addiction, I guess, for evil, but for good things. It is educating them on their vehicle. And when it is in that presentation is selected and it's in their client preview, they will see the video presentation in whatever spot you put it in. In this case, it's right here. The customer clicks that, and what they see is this, and it'll have full audio. Starts muted in my case. I think that's the case for everyone. You're welcome. And they can, of course, skip next videos, but this one will play. Once it's done, it just launches right into the next video. Sucks them right in. This is cool. Take videos, and if you do take a series of shorter videos, they basically play as one now, and you can direct them to, hey, take a look at the videos our technicians took. This is great. Great stuff. I will say this, don't go line by line with the DVI. Break things down into 3 options for them. I love the sales technique for the 3-option technique. Mr. Client, here's what it takes care of to take care of your main concern today. Here's what it takes to take care of your red and your yellow items as well, or red items. Main concern and red items. As you know, anything marked red can jeopardize safety, reliability, or efficiency. We don't want to let you down. So we will recommend we take care of those red items, stay along with that main concern for this price, right? And then option 3, Mr. Client, is to go full green. We'll take care of the main concern, the red items, and the yellow lines. In, out, done. As long as they're looking at the DVI as you give them those numbers, which you should have prepped ahead of time, you can have a very simple and concise sales process. Follow up with a text message if you need to capture approvals. We also do have an approval form available to Protractor and TechMetric users. I know TechMetric users, you have your own as well, but ours doesn't allow you to choose job options. Ours simply shows you the price that we discussed and captures the signature. So if you have any questions on the approval form, we can show you that in another instance here another time as well. Lots of ways to engage people. I could spend more time on that one, Josh, but we should move on.
Yep, so question 5 here from Justin. Is there an inspection style for shops that are tire-centric?
Very, very good question. And yes, in fact, I have one, and I'm happy to share this too. If you're a tire store and you need some inspection sheets that maybe you don't want to go reinvent the wheel, so to say, we can share these things. I do have one in my demo instance. Actually, our friends at More Tire in Illinois created this one, and I have been showing a few people this. It's a very simple tire inspection for very quick in-bay, in the wheelhouse type things, and all that's on it. It does not use the graphic tire inspection, interestingly, but it does use our sub statuses very effectively. Left front, right rear, left rear, and you have in each one of these a preset quick point click done ability to make quick notes on the condition of the tires. And you can, of course, add your own notes to it as well. And then we also have the brakes section here, which again, using sub statuses, has the measurements built in, ready to go. And you are able to make the measurements around every single piece. This is one of the fastest and cleanest inspections I see in tire bays on a regular basis. So by all means, if this is something that fits for you, that's great. It does have a little addendum here for steering and suspension. There are no sub status for that, but it definitely has notes for technicians to say things about the steering system, say things about the suspension. This is a unique inspection where the vehicle is typically not getting the hood opened in some cases. I also would add a category for fluids and various things, maybe build from this, but it's a great inspection for that. I also will remind you of one other piece. When you're doing a multi-point inspection, like I have a lot of stuff on my DVI, don't forget, if you are very tire centric and you have a very narrow scope of the things that you're inspecting, the things that are not clicked in Autoflow will not show up to your client. So it is okay to have a little bit more meat to your inspection. The requirements can be a little lighter. You don't need to worry about them that way. And by the way, we added a new filter for the stuff that is required. If your technician's performing something and just needs to focus only on the required things that you've added to your sheet, that new R button right here is going to show them only the things that have requirements now. Only the things that have requirements. And we've standardized our logos on this as well. Some of you remember where there was a red R for a long time on this, and we had asterisks up here for requirements. An asterisk everywhere on the DVI now means required. The H simply means there's history. History can be viewed right here. You click it, the line item title, and you'll see any previous images. If it's the current visit, if there was previous visits, there's links to the other inspections as well. Peter, Cloutier is fun to hear English speakers say. It is, it absolutely is. Beautiful. Yeah, tire stores thrive with Autoflow. Thank you, Darren. It absolutely is true. There's a lot of great features. I do love the multi-axle tire inspection. I'm going to show you this as well. If you're a tire store in the north, I love you, and you have a tire hotel, a lot of times you folks are familiar with the concept. You can add axles inside of Autoflow, and you can name this one the winter front, for example. And you can name it winter rear. Right? Or you can name it after the type of tire that's on that set. And then you can have that entire tire profile section for all 8 assemblies there. This is a really cool piece. And if you have a dually truck and a tire hotel, I hope you're charging more, but we also have the ability to add that extra set of tires for that axle right here as well. So depending on where you are and what type of vehicle you serve or how weird and the number of axles is, this is a fully adaptable piece of the inspection sheet. And those substatuses are managed in DVI sheet setup. If you are not using our multi-axle tire inspection, your team will love you if you go in here to tire inspection, turn on the multi-axle, not just the standard 2-axle one that we've had forever, but the multi-axle. This is what lets you choose which things you want to include in here. A lot of you like the OE and actual. I'm a big fan of that too. DOT numbers. I had the honor of a lifetime building some test questions for the service consultant exam for ASE certification. Sitting on that committee, we all agreed the interpretation of very specifically the date code on tires is a key service advisor skill moving forward. And pro tip for you, if your service advisor wants to get ASE certified, they need to know how to interpret date code. There's probably going to be more than one question on that. And you do want to capture that information in there. But you can add your red, yellow findings, whatever it is. So I usually keep yellow around 4, maybe even 5, but a lot of people, it's up to you, but I think an industry standard would be really great in this department too. You can add substatuses. One thing I get a comment on this when I show people this, like, it goes more than 7, Craig. I know. So just add the 8 up option here. 8 plus is very good. Whatever note you need on there. And that'll be there for your technicians to point click, and a lot less typing. Guys, they're going to move way faster through that tire inspection portion. The thing that'll kill me is thumb typing. Slows me way down. I don't like doing it. Inspection style for shops that are tire centric. Yeah, multi-axle tire inspection. I think it's going to keep your efficiency up. I think it'll keep you below that 15-minute common threshold too.
So Greg, before the next question here, we had a question from Nate. Why aren't the tire pictures included into the total number of images for the DVI report?
Ooh, probably because you need to submit that to support and say, hey, dudes, what's up? Support at autoflow.com. We would want to hear exactly that sort of thing as a feature request type of feedback, but that I'm tempted to say is changing. I will have to go and review the notes in our latest release, but that is a reporting, I would call it a bug because that's not intentional. Those images absolutely should count. And the image tagging system works really good on this too. So obviously one of my favorite features is that whatever picture you take a tire of, as long as you hit the button in the right spot, it'll automatically tag itself as that tire. So don't forget that. This is clearly the left front tire and it'll be labeled as such, shows up great inside of that piece. But yeah, it should totally count to towards your image threshold. Sorry, it's not. Thanks for reporting that. Josh, make note of that too, so that
Yep,
we can
of
submit a ticket
course.
on behalf. That's great.
Looks like one more question before we move on to the
Oh,
last
sure.
one here. From Edgar, is there an integration with Hunter that would take the tread depth readings from a quick check and add them to the tire inspection?
Add that quick check rack. I don't believe they're sending us that data in that portal, which is a shame because we have a great Hunter integration. We will get the alignment results from a quick check on those racks. So we do have that. It does require a conversation with your Hunter rep. One of the things, let me see if I can pop up my screen on this. It's really hard to find a live ticket with a Hunter alignment having been performed, but it's all done by VIN match. Let me open up my page on this and I'll put it in chat for you too. That's a really good question. Hunter, boom, here we go. All right, Hunter Engineering, we do have a pretty cool integration. What it does, and this is the older view of our client display, but we would actually have a button that says view results directly in the tire portion of the DVI, and it just links it, all the Hunter specs straight to it. This is a free integration, folks. That means that to enable a Hunter integration where the results are automatically injected inside of your DVI, all it takes is a support request to our team at support@autoflow.com and also a request to your Hunter rep to make sure that that portal piece is engaged. I'm going to put this straight in chat right here in Zoom for you, and you can see some more details on that piece. VIN match required. So most alignments, you're scanning that barcode or you're getting the VIN number. As long as you have a matching VIN in Autoflow, it finds its way into Autoflow without you having to click any buttons. It does require the later version of WinWorks, I'm sorry, WinAlign, but that was like 14.4.1. That's ancient. Pretty much everyone I meet now is probably on version 16. So I think you'll be in good shape.
All right, so for question 6 here, we have from Andrew. How can we be faster on the service writer side while not requiring more effort on the tech side?
Faster on the service advisor side without requiring more effort on the service advisor. Now, this is the magics in Autoflow. We don't want to put a lot of load on the technician's shoulders. I ask very clearly from technicians just to give me good pictures and decent notes. To make it easier for the service advisor, I think it's important to have some standardized notes. I have a strategy that I use. I have this document I use, quick notes, I usually call it. I should have it handy. Let me see if I can open it up here. Here it is. So I build a compendium of notes inside of a Google document, and I'm going to encourage everyone to be able to do this. And I'm happy to share this document too as a starting point for you. If anyone wants that, please speak up in chat. I'll create a fresh copy and I'll make sure that it's shareable and you can then rip off and duplicate, copy it yourself. I built it out to include findings that are common in just about every line item that's in my regular inspection. And the reason I say that this is good for service advisors is your administrators are going to put these into Autoflow in the DVI notes setup page. And it's really easy to do. I'll take HVAC here as an example. We'll go into Craig's Awesome Auto. We'll go into, we're going to go into DVI notes setup. So this does two things, actually. It keeps your technicians efficient and it makes less editing of the notes for the service advisor. I want to be able to go into a DVI, see what pictures are on there, build up a good estimate, and know that there's nothing ridiculous that I need to modify inside of that inspection form. Now, our note setup is going to be changing even more in the future, but itemized notes are where we're going to go. And let's just say I'm in my courtesy inspection here. You hit add note. You can put this in whatever. I'm just going to put it in general service items for this example. Watch what happens. I paste this note in and I hit add note. And this goes straight in here into the note setup here. So I made a bunch of stuff in general, but those notes can then be turned into green, yellow, red notes. You also can add predefined recommendations to those notes. This is where a little effort in the administration process is going to help you. Yeah, I will. I'm going to create a copy of that and share it. I'll do it right after the webinar here, so I don't burn time trying to make a fresh copy and share it with folks. But I do have emails in the registration form as well. Next time I'll just have to make a QR code or something people can scan and actually be ready for that. That would have been a great resource to hand you. Sorry. But look, I still say I've been ASE certified for a while. My notes don't suck. They are drafted by me and some of our colleagues over the years. And so this document does have a lot of good stuff in it. I will encourage you have regular meetings with your team. Build this out. You can even build out what your sub statuses are and paste this stuff straight into Autoflow. Don't just manage it all in Autoflow and go through that administration task there. Keep it in a collaborative space like this. This is a much easier space for other users to come in, add something to it, say, hey man, I added the note to the document. Can you make sure that gets uploaded to Autoflow? Boom, done. It gets done. It gets done. It just takes constant little refinements on that. And that's really kind of, I think, the thing too. We make the analogy of a guitar and Autoflow. We want you to really have it. A lot of you get set up on it and you start rolling and you keep rolling with the same habits that you started rolling with. And the continual refinement of these DVIs is what's going to create a stronger integrity of your process. I love this question because we do want to reduce effort for the technicians. If you look across the interwebs, you're going to see technicians are the ones very much feeling an extra sense of duty to do a DVI, and a lot of resistance comes from them. The reality I find on the other side of this coin is that most technicians I meet are cranking out really good inspections, and it's actually the service advisor that is not taking some of the features and leveraging them fully and working it into the sales conversation. So this is good in a number of ways because we do need to keep the service advisors faster too. I hate it when the service advisor feels like, yeah, there's a lot of data on this DVI. It's just gonna be quicker for me to call the guy and see if I can get the thing approved. And that's the habit that happens. So keeping it simple with the notes, I think, is a great starting point. I think for service advisors as well, if I take this further, and I could do this question for 4 hours here. This is a good one. I think you're going to need to learn to use these filters. The technicians are probably giving you a lot more information than you need already. I hope that's the case. If that's not the case, then that's probably a DVI setup issue. But mastering these filters is going to keep you very organized as you go and build your estimates. Different integrations have different abilities to push the results into your shop management system. It's going to help you build your estimates a lot quicker. Techmetric, Protractor, Tire Shop, and Napa Tracks now too. We push into the sub estimate screen on Napa Tracks. Very effective. I think that's going to be a big help. I'm trying to think of anything else, Josh. Be faster on the service advisor side. Speed. I would say service advisors are the ones doing the image markups. I always do this as a service advisor. I don't ask technicians to do that piece. There is some cool abilities as well with image tagging, keeping a good image profile. A lot of times service advisors are the ones going out to the car and getting the initial data on the vehicle. You don't need to do the profile section and the four-corner walk around. Let's go my four-corner walk around. What you can actually do is you click the image you already took for the four-corner walk around, and you said that is a nice-looking profile image of a very sweet-looking Honda Odyssey. So we're going to make this a vehicle picture. You tag it right from the picture modal, and that will become the picture at the end of the carousel. You can even then click these now and make that the default front-facing image now. So when I refresh this page, that'll be the front-facing image. Little tricks like that. Really, really helpful. I think
Awesome.
yeah, Josh, I don't think I missed anything, but I think the preview ability, playing around in there, getting that built out the way you want it for a client, very valuable. Tagging RVHs. We're asking a lot from advisors to build a good presentation. Guys, this is what really the clients are going to consume it, and that's where the easiest approvals come from. What did I miss, Josh? I don't think I missed anything in
We
here.
did have one question that I did want to follow up with you
Okay.
on. For Doug, will you offer an option for the technician to share private pictures with a service advisor? This can be helpful.
Mm, we do private notes. You're right. So private pictures, that's an interesting question. So there is one way just to show you the chat option down at the bottom of the screen. That should be on for pretty much every store. And you can tag a picture in here and send that straight to an advisor. This is pretty effective. I know a lot of you are on Slack and smart devices and other ways too. But if you want to keep it in Autoflow to keep things organized, just pick the service advisor or whoever you're chatting with here and add whatever image it is. You can take an image or use it from a file. Want to send a picture of a truck, send that. There you go. That's off to the individual's screen. They can be notified. They'll receive that. It's going to be undocked, however, from the DVI. Now, we do private notes. If you want to keep an image private, you could unmark it red. You also could delete the image after you take it. If you delete the image, and this is unknown to a lot of people, you can still access deleted images in the change log for the DVI. Let me refresh here. Oops, not that much. Just this. Is that not going to open for me? It's not going to open for me right now. I don't know why. Let's go back to my transmission line item. And we'll click the change log there. Deleted attachment. It's the image is broken here right now. I'm not sure why it's not opening for me, but that actually is a downloadable image. In your case, you should see a perfectly preserved image in the change log, and that is a downloadable image still. We preserve all of that data. So if you wanted to take a picture and delete it, but then direct them to go look at it in the change log, it's not an elegant feature by any means for that regard, but it is a workaround that would solve it. You could also make a note that says, check deleted image. A little off into the weeds on that, but those private notes, as you know, not visible to clients. And if you wanted to, you can filter your view so that you can see private notes. Most technicians are using private notes for other reasons, and I agree with them. Extra labor time, extra parts, anything that doesn't really need to be disclosed to the client as an educational piece in the presentation, use the private notes for that. I think that'd be really good. Josh, are there any other questions on that?
Looks like we're all clear here, besides just wanting that Google Sheet that you had.
Oh yeah, perfect. So we definitely will. I want to highlight a couple other pieces here. This is one of those things I think that a lot of you maybe haven't even noticed is that slim work order is now available. So if you're using Autoflow's work order feature on our innovation tier, so any of our level 5 integrations like Shopware, TechMetric, Protractor, Omni, Tire Shop, even Napa Tracks and several others, you'll have the ability to have work order generation. And instead of actually going to the work order to clock on a job, specifically for you folks doing courtesy inspections tied with oil changes, you'd be able to clock in on that job right here from the slim work order without having to go to the work order. You can close that out and go do your DVI. And so that job is now being clocked at the same time that you're doing this. And you can mark things complete there as well. If you're not interested in clocking, I understand. You can mark the job complete. That updates the work order all from a single screen, much easier for the technicians. Keeps them very efficient. Very efficient. So that's all the questions. So I guess, Josh, the only question is, Craig, if there's one thing you could show everyone that you really wanted to highlight, what would that be? And for me, I think that it was already hit with Darren's question, fortunately, and it is in the workflow. One of the things that pains me the most is when I log in and I see silent workflow statuses. And in particular, the second status right here. I am a huge fan of automation in this workflow. And when I start out on that check-in status, guys, I really want it to move to the texting inspection status as soon as the technician begins doing the inspection. And we know technicians, are not going to be the ones to click on the status in most cases. Getting them to do that is a chore sometimes. So inside of your settings, we have multiple options here. The automation setup is where I would want to go. And I want to make sure you feel good about this. Turn this status on, the DVI status update. With that on, when a technician begins performing, not when they open the inspection, but when they begin performing the inspection, it will automatically go to whichever status your DVI is attached to. And then I also have further automation with the DVI, and that moves to the estimating status in my case. Now remember, the parentheses in Autoflow indicate a silent status. I always remind people it's like a kid in a thunderstorm. You put pillows over your ears and it's not scary. Texting isn't scary either. This estimate status is silent. This one, not silent. But you know what I see? I see a lot of advisors afraid to have texting on that status with that automation with this question. It's like, Craig, what are we going to do if it's been here for 6 hours and we send that text that we just started looking at it? Well, Josh, wouldn't you like that update? Oh, you might not like the update, but you would like an update, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the point. And we have to be completely transparent. DVI is all about transparency anyways. And I think that this is a really strong piece. Charlie, with Napa Tracks, the workflow starts in inspection. They never start in check-in. Oh, that should be an option on the workflow. Actually, we should talk on that. Good question. Sometimes I know with the tracks, they have some sub statuses that I don't know that we're looking at yet. But we can probably dial some of those in. I have a check-in status there. It can be a silent one. It can be anything. Sometimes just transferring tickets on the board can be silent and you move it to check-in. But whatever inspection, you could have another status right after that your other first status. After the first status, you can have anything. The customization is so fluid. I strongly recommend having one that really does trigger the message to show the technicians engaged with their vehicle. Mine is a simple message. Forget what it is now. I've been playing with messages a great deal lately, but hey, technicians now performing initial assessments on your vehicle. Look for results here shortly. There it is. Darren. Yeah, I used to be afraid of the automation, but Craig was always correct that it helped more than hindered, and it was a great thing in the long run. Thanks, Darren. Yeah. Never seen a check-in status. So Charlie, that's a really interesting question. We should follow up on that, but you can create any statuses you want in Autoflow. So you're not limited to whatever's currently on your workflow, fully customized. You're probably very aware of this, but you can change the order, pop them in any other place, call them whatever you want, and definitely do that. Justin, can you give us your updated messages you're playing with? Oh yeah, take a look at this. We've got just a couple more minutes here before we have to close this down. So this is what I'm doing, folks. I have trimmed down what I want to say to things. And I think this is also something to keep in mind in your DVIs as you consider your process. People, our brains are broken today. It's these things. They broke them. It's all of us. And we all have very short attention spans. What I need you to realize is that a lot of people don't read what you have. So keep it very concise. Glad to serve you today. Look for updates here by text. You can also reach out to us here anytime. That's about as long as I would go. And it's setting the next expectation every single time. Your technician's performing the assessments. Look for results here shortly. The thing it is, the thing that's next. Estimating, I keep silent because they bother me when I'm building estimates and then I mess things up. We've looked over your vehicle. Have your estimate ready? Please call the shop when you can. You can even break that down. Estimates ready. Please call the shop. As short and concise as you can. It's not improper anymore to be a little bit brief in your messages. In fact, I think it's more appreciated than not. Then on this one here, your parts have been ordered. We update you once again once we begin repairs. I actually stopped sharing this update. I usually do this manually now instead of on a status, but up to you. Parts in hand, your vehicle's in line for service. It'd be my message for the dispatch status, waiting on tech. A lot of you have on your screen. Very good one. Servicing, always on in my demos. Technician servicing your vehicle. We'll update you on our progress. Don't use words like, we'll let you know when it's completed in this status. I've seen it. I've seen the results. The result is someone gets dropped off. You said my car is completed. Be careful. And I never tell them I'm doing the final road checks because they also show up thinking it's all done. And the ready status. The same thing for the approval call. Our final checks are complete. Your vehicle is ready for you. Please contact us when you are able. I don't care if it's by text or call for this one. I just want to make sure I set expectations. I've been teaching people to use a downtick timer for this one as well, with a simple timer. So if they don't call you, you're calling them. Same thing I do with that approval status. Oh, and there is one more piece, and I'll leave you with this on this. And Charlie, we'll definitely connect. I know Brandon's probably not wrong. Brandon's right a lot, very, very often, in fact. But I am going to highlight in DVI setup, you have the ability to call your categories anything you want. This has been the case for a very long time. This does not necessarily describe to the customer what is green, what is yellow, what is red, and it doesn't necessarily describe to your technicians what is green, what is yellow, what is red. And the biggest issue I see in shop process, and this is a great point to close on, is that as an industry, we have not defined what is green, what is yellow, and what is red. Because we as an industry have not done that, we did not hard code anything in here. Well, you will have a basic message that'll match your headers, but you can customize for your client a guide of what these things mean. And I'm going to encourage you to share that guide with your technicians as well, so that you have consistency in how your team is making things green, yellow, or red. If red for me, folks, and I've made this case a number of times, there is something wrong here. We can make it better. You can be a little more descriptive, but that's the gist of it that I use. It affects safety, reliability, or efficiency. Stop letting your technicians drift between red and yellow based on it can get by with that sort of logic. Josh, you drove a BMW. There's lots of things you can get by with.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there's probably a lot of red too, because it's broke and someone can make it better. And then you'll be broke because it's a BMW. But this is where you can set it up for your customer. And guys, they will see that in that client preview that we were showing you earlier. Wish I could have showed you the full screen. I think I have a screen resolution issue there. The client has that guide, and you can direct them to it while they're viewing that DVI. So whatever you do end up there, and I should have saved my other screen here, will show up in here. This will be a nice, useful piece to direct them towards if they forget. Customers, if they haven't been told what is green and what is yellow, what is red, will also interpret it themselves. And there's a good chance they've seen an inspection from another shop that had their own standards too. Use the tools in front of you, define these things, define it for your team, and create that consistency in the inspections. I think you're going to be in great shape. But don't be shy about playing in the microsite page. That is a lot of fun. There's a lot of branding colored options in there. If you know your color codes, that's going to help you be very quick in there. And I wish you all the best of luck on this. We will have plenty of new features coming soon to the DVI as we continue our V4 update. So please stay tuned. The DVI is continuing to be a major point of focus for us, and we hope that it is going to be a main focus for you too. Josh, any final comments?
No, just thank you for having me on today, and thanks for everyone for attending.
Oh, I appreciate your backup too, Josh. Much appreciated.
Of course.
Hopefully I'll be down at Golden Rule in Texas someday when it's not stupid hot, and I'll get to be a part of one of those guitar parties. I'll just hold one though. That's all I'm gonna do.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We'll get those notes out to those of you that hit the chat. If you haven't seen it from me in a few days go by, please don't be shy. Reach out to us. It's hard to keep track of a number of things, but there's my email. If I missed you or you didn't see the notes, pop me the email. I operate from my inbox very well. Some of you know that. I hope that's true for everyone that's experienced that. We'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks again. See you, Josh.
See ya.